theologian in the 4th century wrote the following in his second Easter oration. Now we are to examine another fact and dogma, neglected by most people, but in my judgment, well worth inquiring into. To whom was that blood offered that was shed for us? And why was it shed? I mean, precious and famous blood of our God and high priest and sacrifice. We were detained in bondage by the evil one, sold under sin, and received pleasure in exchange for wickedness. Now, since a ransom belongs only to him who holds in bondage, I ask to whom that was offered, and for what cause? If the evil one fie upon the outrage, if the robber receives ransom, not only from God, but a ransom which consists of God himself, and has such an illustrious payment for his tyranny, then it would have been right for him to have left us alone altogether. But if to God the Father I ask how, for it was not by him that we were being oppressed. And next, on what principle did the blood of his only begotten Son delight the Father, who would not receive even Isaac when he was being sacrificed by his father, Abraham? But changed by the sacrifice, by putting a ram in the place of a human victim. See Genesis chapter 22. It is not evident that the Father accepts it, but neither asked for him nor demanded him. But on account of his incarnation, and because humanity must be sanctified by the humanity of God, that he might deliver us himself and overcome the tyrant, i.e. the devil, and draw us unto himself by the mediation of his Son, who arranged this to the honor of the Father, whom it manifest he obeys in all things. In Orthodox theology, generally it can be said the language of payment and ransom is rather understood as metaphorical and symbolical way of saying that Christ has done all things necessary to save and redeem mankind enslaved to the devil, sin, and death under the wrath of God. He paid the price, not in some legalistic or juridical or economic meaning. He paid the price, not to the devil, whose rights over him were won by deficit and by deceit and tyranny. He paid the price not only to the Father in the sense that God delights in his sufferings, and received satisfaction from his creatures in him. He paid the price, rather, we might say, to reality itself. He paid the price to create the conditions in through which man might receive forgiveness of sins and eternal life by dying and rising again in him to newness of life. See Romans chapter 5, verse 8, and Galatians chapter 2, verse 4. By dying on the cross and rising from the dead, Jesus cleansed the world from evil and sin. He defeated the devil in his own territory and on his own terms. The wages of sin is death, Romans chapter 6, verse 23. So the Son of God became man and took upon himself the sins of the world and died a voluntary death. By his sinless and innocent death, accomplished entirely by his free will, and not by physical, mortal, or juridical necessity, he made death to die and to become itself the source and the way to life eternal. This is what the church sings on the feast day of the Paschal Lamb. I believe that's Pascha. Who is risen from the dead. Christ has risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tombs bestowing life. Don't quite yet know that song as I'm new to Orthodox. Okay, sounds familiar. And this is how the church prays at the divine liturgy of the Saint Basil the Great. He was God before the ages. He appeared on earth and lived among men and became incarnate of a holy virgin. Thank you.